Hi there, I'm John from CNCKing.com. Today we make custom animal paw trays. When it comes to making custom trays at CNCKing.com, we can literally make them out of any material, any shape, any size, and any sort of design profile you want. In this case here, it's a paw. And you can see there's a little bit of an indent of a paw as well, just to give it a little bit more detail. It's roughly 8 inches by 8 inches, and in the back, of course, you have the branding from where it came from, so you could order a lot more. So when it comes to the customization we can offer to you, this can literally have been any paw, any size that you want. So let's say you want a grizzly paw, you want a Sasquatch paw, you want whatever, any kind of paw you could possibly imagine. We can design it for you and make trays just for that. And the nice thing is you can also mix and match. Because we essentially make one at a time, let's say you wanted a dog paw, a grizzly paw, and I don't know, a paw of a moose or something. That's not a problem. We can do that all in one production run for you. And the quantities don't need to be massive either, because we can mix and match it with other projects that we do here in the shop all the time from the main company, CNCKing.com. So I come from doing custom stuff all the time. And this is my sort of CNCKing.com is sort of my jump into the mass product range. What that means is that I want to offer everything I can from my other company into this one here, but instead of being stuck with, you can only order this paw at this size, I want to give you the option of literally anything that you can imagine. So when it comes to getting lumber, we actually get it rough sawn. That's the cheapest sort of method of getting a lot of wood from the sawmill, because as you can see, the finishing is basically nothing. It's straight off the cutting process. And the first thing I do is cut it from 6 foot to 3 feet. And what that does is give me smaller pieces so I can laminate it more easily in the shop here. And you can see here that I'm then cutting them into strips. What the strips do is they give a lot more strength to the overall product, because instead of having one grain sort of flowing across the whole product, you have multiple grains in the same direction, but in the different densities and different aspects or textures to them. And what that does is create a much stronger bond along with the glue that we use. It's funny enough that when we finished all these laminated boards, you don't see any glue whatsoever. You don't even notice it when we finish it. It's just such a tight bond that we create using a router that you just don't see anything. All you do is see the grain direction the same, but you see the grain direction a little bit different on each laminated board. So if you look on the edge of what we make, you'll see the different strips, but if you look straight on, you don't really notice it whatsoever. Now, I'm using a little table saw here. That's something I need to upgrade soon enough, because what happens is I keep cutting off the breaker for the shop, because this little saw is not made to cut over 2-inch thick red oak. Something else I want you to keep in mind when it comes to this kind of custom fabrication is that when I mean we can do basically anything, I mean that. Let's say you wanted this to be on top of another little pedestal that would fit inside of, that's not a problem at all. You wanted a polycarbonate or acrylic front to it to make it into a bank, which we do a lot of at CNCKing.com, not a problem. If you even wanted some metal inlays or a mirrored acrylic on the inside to reflect out, so you can just put like one candy and it looks like 5, not a problem at all. So the options that you could come up with are totally endless, and that's the kind of stuff I love to do here in the shop for my customers, because that's kind of fun. It's boring just making 1,000 of these kind of trays and they're all identical. It's really cool personalizing them for the customer. And that also includes laser engraving. So if you want, let's say on this specific tray here, you wanted this area laser engraved, or you wanted even the back laser engraved, not a problem. We can do that for you just as easily as the overall tray. So what I'm doing here is flattening. I flatten 3 sides on the strips that I make. The first side that you see here is actually what will be glued against the opposite side. So by doing that, by default, I gotta flatten 2 sides so they're flat and parallel. And that gives an amazing bond to all of the different strips. What I then do is I flatten the 3rd side, and that 3rd side is what goes down onto the glue up boards that you see here on the pipes. What I found that it makes it a lot more solid product, because I don't have a lot of bowing, because it's roughly flat on 3 sides. The top side that I don't flatten is on what you see on the top of the glue up. And that doesn't matter, because I gotta flatten everything all over again anyways after the glue up, the top and the bottom, to produce a solid laminated board. Now this process here is relatively fast. Even with the new machine, the thermo that I have, this process it goes roughly the same speed. You can only go so fast with the bit onto red oak before damaging either the wood or the bit itself. And again, the glue up process is pretty straightforward. Just put lots of glue, let it wait for 24 hours, and after that, it's ready to go into the bigger router to go ahead and make these custom trays for the customers. Now, what I'm doing here is there is a limitation because I don't have a jointer, and that is I can only go as low as I can only go as high as the lowest board. So what I mean by that is I need to flatten everything here, but some boards are a little bit higher than others when you do them on the side like this. So what that means is I got to waste a lot more wood, make a lot more sawdust in order to create a nice flat slab at the end of the process. And again, final glue up, pretty straightforward process, and it does wonders to the finished product. So the reason why we can offer so much personalization in low volumes, if that's what you want to do with us, is because we have a lot of synergies of different machines. In the shop currently, I have 3 CNC routers. This is the biggest one by far, and this one actually has a tool changer as well. So that gives us additional flexibility when it comes to finishing, beveling, and all these kind of things that you can't really do in a production run if you only have one tool changer. So, and the nice thing about that is that we also have a CNC plasma cutter. So that's where we can do sort of some metal details on this as well. We can also do welding. Also have 3 laser sources. So we have 1 CO2 and 2 fiber laser sources. So that means, let's say you wanted this here, and in the back you wanted this to be like solid stainless steel and have that etched permanently with your whatever message you want. We can do that too. Now for actually making it. So what I'm doing here is you'll see a piece of MDF underneath all of this. I basically have to screw everything in to flatten one side, and then I take that off and I flip it around, I flatten the other side, and then it's strong enough and flat enough that I could then use my vacuum table and put it on here and just suck everything in. That's why you don't see any screws anywhere on this finished laminated board. So this is a fun step for me because I've done so much of this without using a tool changer, and now that I can use a tool changer, this is so enjoyable just to sit back and watch the machine basically transfer my pixels into sawdust. Now the process here is just always getting optimized and optimized. So even after this production run, I tweak the code to make it a little bit better. And that's also the fun part about making a product. Because generally what I do at my business is usually it's one-offs or 10-offs, and that's about it. I don't really get a chance to optimize things further as I make them, because there's no point, because that's the only time we're making that one item. In this case here, I'm actually doing production runs of similar items, and whatever I optimize for one can apply to the other, as long as I'm always doing red oak for this one here. So, you know, the first tray takes a little bit longer to do, the second tray is a little bit faster, nicer finish, and so forth. And what you see is the whole table is moving here as well. So that helps a lot for rigidity of the overall product. Because what I showed you in the videos when I was turning it around, that's straight off the machine. I didn't have to do any sanding. And that to me is just mind-blowing to me, because I've done so many of these things where I needed to sand them because my old CNC router was not a very rigid system for this specific kind of product production. So you got to remember, this is, by the time I'm done this is roughly 1.75 inch, yeah, 1.75 to 1.5 inches, a little bit in between that, thick red oak. Red oak is very hard on tooling, and it's very hard on machines in general. And this thermowood here, it's like it was cutting, you know, butter. It's just mind-blowing how easily this looks and how hard it is to do properly on any other machine that I've used here in the shop. So how do you go about getting trays made in 1 to 1,000 units or more? Just go to visit the website, sandboxranch.com. If you don't see exactly what you want, there's a lot of options when it comes to these things. But if you want something even more personalized and more detailed, just send me a message on that website and we'll go back and forth until we figure out what works. And then we'll just make it and ship it right to your door.